あるかもしれない。
February 17th has yet passed again for us JoJo fans. And do you know what that means? I think you probably do. It is now the second anniversary of the JOJOlands, and last year I made a kind of recap / review of the JOJOlands first year, and it did phenomenally. So again, I will be doing it here. And I'm not gonna lie, part 9, the JOJOlands, is phenomenal, and it is probably Araki's best work in his entire career. As of right now, of course, writers can go in their high points and their low points, but as of concurrently, I personally feel like this is his best work so far. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. Of course, it does have some things I do have worries about and want to critique about throughout this review. And if you're not caught up or haven't even started yet, I highly implore you do. This is genuinely, I keep on saying it, one of Araki's best written parts. Also, there will be spoilers, just FYI. So in our last story recap, we had the team eventually introduce a new member to it, that being Charming Man. On top of that, Team JoJo has now figured out the lava rock can gather wealth to itself, basically making anybody super wealthy, as the exchange of money will eventually lead the money that you gave away come back to you if you have the possession of the lava rock. Furthermore, it actually doesn't even have to be an exchange of something. You can touch something with wealth, that either being like metaphorical, like something that you just want, or something with actual value to it, will just come to you just by touch and you possessing the lava rock. Because of this, Meryl, the team leader, figures out that, well, if that's the case, what if we just touch the deeds of the northern slope of Hawaii and just take it for ourselves thanks to the lava rock? The worth of the northern slopes of Hawaii, owned by Howler Co., is estimated at $50 million, making everybody in the team concurrently very, very, very rich. And over the past year of the JOJOlands Year 2, this has been the main plot point and is still going on forward, as of chapter 23. However, during this meeting to take the northern slopes from Howler, we actually get a pretty in-depth backstory on Dragona and Jodio and why they're even currently doing this in the first place. As we all should know, the Joestar family is a family of humanity. They are supposed to be the best of us, the guys who always fight for the goodness for goodness sake. However, in this current family matter and in the overall plot of the JoJolands so far, this Joestar family is not in the best of circumstances. One day when Dragona was very young, they were assaulted by the higher echelon of society for very trivial things. I'm going to be personally honest about it. As a result of that, Dragona kind of mentally broke down and her soul was on the cusp of being shattered. In retaliation, Jodio, the main Joestar of this part, takes revenge for her, as that is what the Joestars do. They always fight for the little guy. However, Araki kind of puts a spin on it. While Jodio attacks the bullies, in the process of doing that, hurts innocent bystanders. How does he do it? He burns down a school bus. He does arson. Just straight up arson. After said incident, Dragona thanks him. However though, Dragona then corrects him, kind of basically scolds him because she's all like, you are not mentally well, like at all. You need to seek medical help. You are clearly a psychopath, but she doesn't outright state that, but she still loves him and thanks him for backing her up. However, it doesn't end here, as an absurd event, using Araki's language, takes place. Because of this arson event, insurances have to be paid out to the victims. Coincidentally enough, Jodio's dad is the person that does that, and for whatever reason, the insurance company pays everybody out 10 times the amount. And for whatever reason, Jodio's dad pays it out in pocket using his own money, leaving his children and wife behind. While Dragona can move past the event and lives her best life, even with this current circumstance, Jodio can't, and has this kind of mental battle with himself saying, why does this happen to us? We did nothing wrong. And as a whole, ruins their family's financial situation. However, Meryl comes in clutch as she indoctrinates them both into a gang-like structure, allowing them to protect their mother from the Hawaiian Mafia, giving context to us, the readers, that the reason why just the entire group in general and why they're doing these actions is because of random absurd events that have happened in their life, leading them all to this crucial moment where they have to, well, basically steal in order to get what they want. Not because they're bad people, it's because, well, it's the circumstance. The mechanisms of life and the absurdity of it have forced the group into stealing. It's quite genius, and not until explaining it to you guys have I actually fully understood what Araki was trying to say here. Moving forward, successfully, Team Jodio does get the deeds in contact with a lava rock, and soon those deeds will be in possession of the group, basically meaning the land will be theirs very soon. But of course, in a JoJo twist, the deeds were planted with a bomb. Not really a bomb, more of like a landmine, but the landmine being an automatic stand, which leads to Usagi having a cancer-like reaction within his body, which then slowly progresses to almost the entire group slowly. which is an introduction to Bobby, Jean, and Lily Chan, the first Howler assassins we meet. And as the stand fight progresses, we end up at a hospital, which circumstantially, for whatever reason, maybe thanks to the lava rock, it's definitely because of the lava rock, is trying to press charges on the Howler Corporation and Howler himself for making weapons for chemical warfare on the land that he owns. And of course, Team JoJo does eventually make the congressman pass that law unknown to him. Circumstantially, because of that, Howler now has to deal with the bank and the US government trying to seize his land, even though they don't have jurisdiction over it, thanks to a bunch of family history involving the royal Hawaiian family. And the fact that, well, Howler knows about the lava rocks as his family has been privy to that information for generations at this point. So Howler knows the flow of money is moving somewhere else that is not his family at the current point in time, which makes him hire more assassins and tells Lily Chen and Bobby to hurry up and kill these guys. However, that is unsuccessful as the team is able to use MRI machines to get Lily Chan's stand out of them, and JoJo successfully kills Bobby and his stand that is able to make bullets travel at any speed he chooses. During all of this, thanks to the lava rock, one of the bank employees that was trying to get the debt money that Howler owes to them shows up to the hospital and gets injured thanks to the stand fight that is currently happening in it, which gives the entire team the very genius idea of what if we steal his identity with Charming Man's stand and take not only the land that he owns, but everything that he owns. And eventually, through interrogating Lily Chan, Meryl eventually ends up agreeing with the rest of the group, and they want to take everything that he's actually worth. Which brings us to the last two chapters of the past year, where Dragona, Charming Man, and JoJo meet with Howler, trying to get all the money that he is worth for them. However, Howler, thanks to previous family lore, is not budging. He's going to keep his family's land no matter what, which is leading into a very intense 3 versus 2 stand fight on Howler's yacht that is possibly coming in the near future. Simultaneously though, Howler's other assassins are currently attacking Meryl, which makes Usagi and Paco race back to the school in order to rescue her. When it comes to the overall plot, the drama, and the fight that is currently happening right now within the manga, I have to be genuinely honest to you guys, I am in love with it. I am coming back month to month, when Araki is not on break of course, and gobbling up all this information. I love the story, it's amazing, it's drama filled. The current manga chapter, that being 23, which came out a few days ago at the time of me recording this, is intense as hell. There's like no stand fighting, but it genuinely feels crazy intense. Like Araki was definitely studying like Alfred Hitchcock's idea of like there's a bomb underneath the table that people don't know about it, just the audience, so it's like making you want to read more of it. It's like that's what he's currently doing, and he's like doing this simultaneously with 2 different groups which you don't know the outcomes of, and it's really good, man. I really highly recommend either rereading it or catching up to date, even if you didn't care about my spoiler warning. So with the recap over and me just talking about it in general, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the funny. Starting off with the bad, I'm gonna emphasize here before I get into it, I found a really difficult time trying to find like actually bad things to talk about it, and when I expressed this feeling on Twitter, a lot of people, at least to my knowledge, really don't have anything else really bad to say about it either. It seems like it's genuinely considered by a lot of the JoJo manga fans to be really good. So the first major one that I can personally think of, and I wrote down, is that of walls of text. For whatever reason, at least sparingly throughout this year, and probably as a whole for JOJOlands, is every so often Araki will just have like very, very large walls of text. And personally for me, I'm reading a manga here. I don't want to read a massive amount of text. That's for novels. I want to see art and word bubbles in unison together. And I feel like for the majority of the time, Araki does a good job at this, but every so often he does start yapping about stuff, which for me, the reader, is kind of annoying, at least personally speaking here. The biggest example of this is when Bobby Jean begins to yap to a security guard, and in hindsight, looking at it as it's on my other monitor as I'm yapping about this, is it's kind of useless. There's just this massive amounts of text that spans over a few pages, and it's just really nothing. It leads to nothing, and it's just kind of annoying here. I feel like this could have been used for something way better after looking at it again. Now, when it comes to stand fights, I think they have been done phenomenally. However, and this isn't really like a major critique, this is just a personal thing I want to see, but where are the punch ghosts? We don't have any punch ghosts, man. I'm missing my punch ghosts, dude. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the fight between Billie Jean and JoJo was really, really cool, but I kind of wanted this like callback between like Silver Chariot versus the Emperor, where we're, you know, using a sword against like a bullet and so on and so forth. I really like that idea, but you know, seeing it here, it's cool. You know, we eventually see the rain eventually overpower Billie Jean's bullets, but I want to see stands clash. I really want to see like 2 stands go head to head with the users behind them, but we really don't see that here because Araki's trying stuff relatively new to his style of, you know, combat. that. Don't get me wrong on that. I like what I'm seeing here, but I miss the punch ghosts. Keeping on track with the stands, I've also noticed that stands are much smaller, not in size, but they're not really standing next to their users anymore. They seem very abstract in terms of their design and where they're placed. For example, looking at Bobby Jean again with his stand Glory Days, it doesn't really have a physical form other than the gun and the bullets slowing down. You look at Charming Man, his stand is relatively on his skin and we never really see it. You look at Paco's stand, his stand is quite literally in his body, so we really don't see it. And all the other stands that we do end up seeing are tiny in comparison. So everything is very small for some reason, and I'm kind of finding that very disappointing. I do want to see a stand next to their stand user. So I'm hoping next year we'll see stand users do that more often. However, if this does become a recurring trend, it will disappoint me. But the Howler Assassins look like there are generic stand users with their stands standing next to them, which is what I want. If anything, a mix of both would be pretty nice too. This upcoming one is really nitpicky, and that is Araki's constant reusage of a individual word in a chapter. For a while it was mechanisms, for another it was absurd. However, he constantly reiterates it again and again and again to make sure the audience knows what he's talking about. He's being super up forward with us. I like that, but after a certain point it gets really annoying. Like at one point Dragona was saying it pretty often and it was getting kind of annoying. Like, I get it, absurdities happen, that's kind of the whole point of the story. I get it, Araki, I know what you're trying to say, just lay off of it every once in a while, please. So this next one is probably the biggest, and on a community-wide scale is probably the one that was most talked about in this past year, that being the constant use of, and I'm gonna, limit my words here, so I'm gonna self-censor, that being the assault that happens during chapter 13 of JOJOlands, involving Dragona and eventually the aftermath with Jodio and what he does. So I know, reading through part 5 interviews way back in the day, that the reason why Araki does this is to show the juxtaposition between good and evil within his world. So he's not doing this for any weird intent to my knowledge. What he's doing here is showing good and evil. What I think the problem is, and where he kind of maybe overstepped the boundaries in terms of that scene, is how descriptive it was in terms of dialogue and what he was showing. It was kind of freaky. I'm not gonna lie, even I was cringing at it. I feel like his editors failed here and he should have been restrained just a little bit, like some cutaway or something, And I feel like it does make it worse when Jodio, does his action with the school bus, which then also didn't sit right with people, but I know why he was doing that too, because he's trying to show a juxtaposition within Jodio, which I think was cool. But of course, I think overall what this scene should have been is a bit more restrained. I don't think Araki should stop doing it, because I know what he's trying to do here. He's trying to emphasize evil to the audience, but I feel like some restraint is needed here in order to do it properly. So if he were to do it again in the future, which is maybe likely, please Araki, show a little restraint, maybe do a cutaway, let the imagination, do its work. But past that, those are all my criticisms and worries for the JOJOlands in year 2. Moving on forward, let's talk about the good. So one of the smaller things I love about this manga in year 2, and just in general so far, is the team humor. Seeing the team have these lighthearted moments as they all make fun of each other in some point or another, or they just have group interactions as a whole. And it brings me a nice warm feeling in my heart. But I know why he's doing it, because he's gonna kill somebody off in the far future, as this is classic writing of making lighthearted moments to eventually emphasize the darker ones that eventually show up. Yeah, I know that was kind of dark, but I'm liking the team humor. I like when they all make fun of each other at some point, so it's neat, but I know where it's leading to. It's gonna end up making me cry, but as of right now, I'm loving it. I love these guys. They're a bunch of little goofy little kids. I say little kids, but Jodio's the only little one, and some of these guys are grown ass adults, but regardless. So looking into the art, I think the art of JOJOlands so far has been fantastic, especially in year 2. I have no idea what they are feeding Araki, but personally with me, looking back at part 8, at least with its early beginning, they are nowhere near close to each other. Araki is going crazy, basically all in on JOJOlands in terms of art. I have no idea why, but I am loving it. Everything is a genuine treat to the eyes every month. And continuing with that, the stand name flares that show up every once in a while are fucking genius. I don't know why I love them so much, but seeing Dragona or Jodio or really anybody of the group just say their stand name and it has this unique style to it is incredible. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm really emphasizing it here, but I really like it. And I hope to cause kind of a butterfly effect, because I want to see everybody have, announce their stand name, have this cool little like font style, as I feel like it makes like their stand even more personal to them. Fantastic decision there. Honestly, round of applause. Now this upcoming one is a bit of a recent addition, and I don't know how far it will go, but I hope it stays for a while. That being, recently with chapter 23, we saw a lot of intense dialogue without a stand fight, and I think Araki did a really good job at it. I think I know why he's doing it. He's been watching too many AMC shows, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead. It's clearly evident that he's doing it. He's being really inspired by them. And because of that, I want to see more of that. I want to see a lot more like fights, quote unquote, without stands. I want to see like a verbal debate between two characters about any certain subject when it occurs. I think it's a lot more interesting to see where it goes, as it's not a battle of, physical versus physical. It's the battle between mind versus mind. And personally with me, I find that a hell of a lot more interesting than a boring stand fight. Now, this upcoming one is pretty heavy and might require an entire video in and of itself. That being how economically political, or just political in general, full JOJOlands is. I don't think it has any like comparison. It is so goddamn political for a lot of reasons, but like it's weird that Araki's talking about it. What I mean by that is Araki is talking about Hawaii's native population not wanting to be a part of the US / the US abusing its native Hawaiian population, seen with Howler's interaction with the general public. Past that, we also see critiques of insurance companies and the overall banking system, at least within the US. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a global critique, but that is also there as well. Not to mention the fact there are US, politicians involved in the story trying to take over land that really they don't have the jurisdiction over. However, it's viewed kind of in a good light because Howler is bad, but they did it through the wrong system, so they are corrupt as well, or at bare minimum not fit to serve. So it's in a weird kind of gray area, but I think it will lead somewhere else very important in the near future. I really do like kind of like the side political story that is taking place while the main story runs its course. And I really do hope it kind of clashes with the main story at one point, or kind of intersects into like a bigger plot point, because I personally find it really intriguing. I do like the social / political critique Araki's giving here, even though he's Japanese, which makes this all the more weirder. Now, I'm proud to announce a major critique of mine in general with JoJo's, not just with JOJOlands, has been retroactively solved, at least personally with me. That being, the group dynamic feels amazing. Unlike with previous parts, which feels very shallow, or one character gets much more screen time than another, and the group kind of feels unbalanced, or basically unloved, at least how I perceive it, JOJOlands doesn't have that problem. Everybody feels like they almost get an equal amount of screen time, with, of course, the Joestars getting more than most, but of course they're the main characters, so it's a bit different. How that is retroactively solved is they interact with the team a lot of the time when they're on screen, and vice versa. Everybody talks with each other. Everybody has like a group character in unison together when that happens, going back to the funny bits. But they also critique each other. They have problems with each other, and that goes for everybody. Everybody said something about Paco, or Paco said something about somebody else, and Dragona says about somebody like that, and versa, and it keeps on going on and on and on. It feels like an alive group. Comparing that to the Stardust Crusaders, Bruno's group, the Morio Warriors, or even like the Stone Ocean group, none of them ever had this dynamic. They all feel like actual people within a group, and I'm so goddamn happy about that, because it feels like a breath of fresh air. Like Araki, after like 30 years, has finally understood how a group should actually work in tandem with each other and actually communicate with each other. It just feels great reading. The clash of personalities is nice. The overall kind of group mentality never being straightforward, and there has to be an active discussion in order to do what comes next, is refreshing, because either it was a bunch of yes men just got repetitive after so many years, and the fact that sometimes their personalities didn't clash or didn't feel properly melded together, it almost seemed forced, always threw me off. But this team feels and has acted different compared to so many different previous JoJo groups that I'm just in love with them, man, just point blank. Last year, I said I come back to this manga month after month to read about Jodio and what's going on with his life and the bizarre adventure that he's currently in. However, I read month after month in this year, and probably for the most part moving on forward, to read about the group. There are so many combinations and personalities there that I'm just constantly intrigued by all of them. Round of applause for Araki, man. I'm being serious. And when it comes to my funny section, where I like leave my quirks or quips about what happened this year involving the part, I really don't have anything. It was honestly a very serious year for JOJOlands. The only thing I could maybe make a joke about is how much lore there was this year. There was a lot of Howler, Charming Man clan lore, and like Joestar sibling lore, but it felt really organic this time around, so I really can't say that's a good or a bad thing. It was just genuinely cool. Overall, in summary, for the year 2 of JOJOlands, it was a genuine treat for fans, Araki, and overall for the manga in general. Honestly, I'm loving it. I honestly think that JOJOlands has gotten significantly better, even though it was at a really good point to begin with. I'm actually amazed Araki was able to pull that off. So with that all being said, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated, and want to consider in supporting me in making these videos, become a channel member. It helps me a hell of a lot more than you would know. So if you do, thank you.